Right, Mark, shall we review something else?
Yes, let's go ahead.
Sorry, shall you review something else?
No. We are.
No,
but this is it. This is an unusual take in which there are two critics in the room. Actually, no, it's very interesting to have that discussion about the whale. I know Simon likes the whale more than I do, but I don't know that he likes it as much as you do. So I think that would actually be a third voice in the thing. But I want to say this again. Don't you think that the genius of that interview is that he does get people to express to say what they, he draws it out of them. I think it's.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. Simon Mayo is the Steven Spielberg of broadcast.
That's very good.
He makes it look effortless.
That's very good. What does that make us? Let's not go there.
Let's
not go there.
Yeah,
okay,
don't
fine.
even probe.
So,
okay, Knock at the Cabin.
Knock at the Cabin. This is the new film by M. Night Shyamalan, starring Dave Bautista, amongst others. Shyamalan. I mean, everyone knows this, but famous, of course, for Sixth Sense, Signs, Happening. Tanked his career with things like After Earth, then made a surprise return with The Visit, which turned out to be a big hit. His output recently has been Glass, which I thought was very underrated. Did you like Glass?
I was in the middle on it.
Okay, I liked it a lot. Old, which I actually thought was pretty good, like a kind of, it's an idea, it doesn't quite work, but hey, you've had a bash at it. Again,
yes, and you've had fun.
Yeah, fine. So it's a kind of typical, tale of the unexpected Twilight Zone style. This is what Shyamalan does, these kind of, what ifs. This is based on a 2018 novel by Paul Tremblay. The novel originally, Cabin at the End of the World, which is a much better title than Knock at the Cabin, which is not a great title. Same-sex couple and their adopted daughter rent a cabin in the woods, not to be confused, incidentally, with Cabin in the Woods, which wouldn't be that hard. 4 people arrive, just turn up, led by Dave Bautista's Leonard. It seems like a home invasion riff because they appear to be carrying homemade weapons. Actually, they are on an apocalyptic, as opposed to post-apocalyptic mission to save the world. In order to do this, they say, one of the 3 people in the cabin must sacrifice themselves or bad stuff is going to happen. Here's a clip. Just to be clear, so one of the 3 people has to be sacrificed by the other 2. So they can't, so you can't kill yourself. So the whole thing is, are these people mad? Are they telling the truth? Is the world really ending? Are they suffering from some kind of psychosis? So I am increasingly a big fan of Dave Bautista, and he does the gentle Hulk thing really well. I mean, he is the size of a mountain, and yet the whole thing is he's a teacher, and he's very kind of reasonable, and he wants to not scare them. The rest of the cast are very committed and give thoroughly, engaged performances. My problem is, well, twofold. Firstly, it makes no sense, but that's fine, because if you're complaining that these kind of things make no sense, it's like the Twilight Zone episode in which the whole world is playing out in the mind of a young child who can't be made annoyed because if he does, it will destroy the world. I think the worst problem is that about 30 minutes in, I started to think, okay, because I'm not actually engaged. I'm not emotionally engaged. I'm just watching this as a puzzle playing out. There are echoes of Signs and The Happening without the mystery of the former and without the just sheer really of the latter. The other thing that I don't want to spoil anything, because obviously if you're, if you want to go along and see it, then do. And the whole thing about, are they talking any sense? Are they making all this stuff up? What I would say is, if you compare this to Michael Tolkien's film The Rapture is the great underrated movie which says, what if this was true? And I've loved that movie, and I've been a sort of, a zealous campaigner for it for years. And all the time that I was watching Knock at the Cabin, I kept thinking, yeah, but in the end, it's just a puzzle box. It's not The Rapture, which is, what if this stuff was true? So I didn't get bored. I just didn't engage emotionally in the way that I have done with Shyamalan's previous films, and I thought it was pretty silly. Robbie?
Yes, it is pretty silly. I think it's actually it's the film of his that I've enjoyed the most since that really successful early run. I was not as wild about, I know old was divisive. I was not as wild about it as some, although I think it's very good fun. Wasn't quite as on board with the split glass thing that everyone else seemed to really get a kick out of.
Split I didn't really like, but Glass I really did.
This to me, this seemed to be going back towards the really kind of tight construction, and even like the craft-wise, the slightly Spielbergian feel of The Sixth Sense. Remember when Sixth Sense came out, everyone was talking about Shyamalan as being potentially the next Spielberg, because it had that really kind of subtle, loaded camera work, and it was all very kind of considered and all very poised, and was able to mix real emotion, but also with a very scary premise. I mean, I'm not saying comparing this to The Sixth Sense at all. I think boringly, The Sixth Sense is probably still his best film, but it's very much working along similar lines, and it's trying to marry that very sinister, very unsettling conceit to something that really has serious emotional purchase. I thought the dynamic between the family was really well done. The couple were brilliantly played. I think Bautista, like you, is one of the most fascinating actors working today. There's nobody else really like him. And I mean, John Cena, arguably to an extent, where you have this incredibly buff former wrestler or whatever he was.
Dwayne Johnson, I mean, to some extent.
I mean, Dwayne Johnson is playing Dwayne Johnson in every role. Dave Bautista is
I agree. I think Dave Bautista is a more accomplished and a more interesting. But
Dave Bautista is what Dwayne Johnson would have been had Dwayne Johnson made Southland Tales and Southland Tales had been a success. Because then he would have been tempted into more roles.
That's a real what if move.
Never going to happen. But had it happened, we would have ended up with Dwayne Johnson doing Dave Bautista's style work. Bautista is such a great screen presence. I think, think about Blade Runner 2049, right? It's on that guy's shoulders more than anything else in that film to establish the mood.
Yeah.
Post-apocalyptic, apocalyptic, mid-apocalyptic, What are we going for? But whatever phase of the apocalypse that film is unfolding in, it comes from Dave Bautista's eyes and his body language before we see the despoiled, Los Angeles of 2049. He is such a great screen presence, and I think he really is this film's biggest, in every sense, asset. Yes, so I was surprised at how much I enjoyed this.
Listen, I'm glad to hear that, because I remember Kim Newman once saying that in terms of signs, that what Shyamalan was doing was taking a very serious approach to science fiction in a way that had become fantastically unfashionable, because in the wake of Star Wars and action-adventure movies, that's what science fiction movies were like. And I think the weird thing with Shyamalan is I did an onstage with him for The Village, which I liked, but was a turning point for a lot of people. A lot of people really didn't like it, and and I found him to be he's very dexterous in his conversation. He talks about film like he understands the language of film very much, but he also has, I believe, very off-key judgment. Like sometimes he can't tell the difference between a really great idea and an idea that won't work. Now, sometimes that makes him interesting. It also means that in the case of some of his less successful works, he can make staggeringly bad decisions. But I think in the case of this, it isn't, I mean, I would also say, despite the fact that most of this plays out in a cabin, it's less stagey than The Whale. And, it's got, that's what I mean about the kind of the Twilight Zone, telling the unexpected, stripped down, 7 people in a room. And apparently they have, without spoiling anything, I never really understood why it is that the 4 people have to dispense with themselves in the way that's never explained, because that doesn't stop it.
Yes. So
that's a kind of, sorry, pardon? No, you haven't quite got this right.
Oddly, that gives it a bit of common ground with The Cabin in the Woods. Again,
it does.
Skirting spoilers.
Yeah. Well done, incidentally.
Did you sense a degree of ambiguity to the mission? Like, did you think the mission actually was true?
I didn't see any ambiguity. I thought the only ambiguity was, are they crazy or is this happening?
Yes.
To which the answer is, well, one or the other. And it doesn't matter, because it's like, but this is why I say, and I'll ask you, have you seen The Rapture?
I have not.
Okay. Your homework, Robbie, is to go away and, if you can find a copy of it, Michael Tolkien's The Rapture is an extraordinary, what if this were true film. And I would hold that up against Noah and anything else and go, that is the set text.
All right, I'll have it in for next Friday, Mr. Kermode.
Well, now, that was a great video, I thought, wasn't
Couldn't take my eyes off it.
And neither could they.
Do you think they know that they can keep up to date with all things Kermode and Mayo's take by checking out our social channels?
Well, they do now.
Yes, they do.